Token Metrics is a cryptocurrency investment platform that helps users leverage machine learning to become better crypto investors. Our in-depth analysis helps eliminate the emotions of investing, find profitable investment opportunities, and filters out scams. Learn more at tokenmetrics.com.
We are live. Welcome to the Token Metrics Market Update. I'm your host, Bill Noble. If you need a roadmap in crypto and you need help navigating this environment, then subscribe to this channel. Turn on alerts so we can let you know when we're going live. All right. If you like the content, please give us a thumbs up. Let's welcome everybody to the stream. I know we probably got a lot of people here. Okay, Megan, hi, Taz, Flipped Burger, Ace Crypto from Kuwait, Aiken. All right. We have Amsterdam, Croatia, London, Boomer Sooner from Oklahoma. UPS truck is still rolling. Got somebody watching us in the UPS truck. Appreciate that as always. Okay, Nigeria in the house, Florida, Cincinnati, with a lot of people coming to us from all over the world. And of course, we have Megan in Boston. We have Andrew in Poland. We have Bangladesh. Everyone all over the world watching some of the news that we've had lately. Right? So there's geopolitical, crypto, and inflation. Other than that, it's really not complicated. Luxembourg, Finland, Columbus, Ohio, Jersey, Fort Worth, right? From Bubba from Canada. Welcome. All right, folks, I'm cutting into the market update here. Let's get busy. All right, folks, Bitcoin. What we're going to do is we're going to analyze the trend one step at a time. So first, I'm going to look in Bitcoin and Ethereum at short-term charts, and then I'm going to widen out the view. So we're going to cover Bitcoin, Ethereum, right, Avalanche, and Solana, right? Those are going to be our proxy for the altcoin space. And then I want to talk about stocks and bonds, and then open it up for questions. So let's talk about Bitcoin on a very short-term chart. This is our 89-minute chart. So, you know, if you're watching this a day or a month from now, this won't be relevant. Now, what it looks like has happened is that there was kind of a sell the news, buy the event for like a half of a day, right? 37,300 is kind of a key level. Maybe you could call that an intraday pivot. In other words, if Bitcoin is above that, it may be okay. If Bitcoin is below that, it probably isn't. So we've got maybe 1 or 2 days or 1.5 days where crypto could be stable so you can figure out your next move. Now, let's take a look at Bitcoin futures. Remember, this is going to be a huge hedging vehicle for anybody long in like substantial size, right? In both the legacy world and possibly even, you know, crypto miners, right? Anybody who needs to move huge size in Bitcoin without destroying the derivatives exchange may go to Bitcoin futures at the CME. Now let's take a look at just what we see. All right, on the right, near like 38,600, that's a cluster of moving averages called the Bill Williams alligator. It's actually a function in TradingView. The title of this stream is Analysis of the Trend. So these moving averages, they kind of put together, you know, daily, but they also give you a computation on intraday and shorter term moving averages, but they put it all together on one chart. So this is a 4-hour chart, right? So that's the longest time frame. And those three moving averages, when they're open or wide open like that, that usually means a trend is intact. Now, a day from now, 2 days from now, that may change on a 4-hour chart, but this can be a pretty good read in the short term for Bitcoin futures because it only trades in the US time frame. For crypto, which is 24/7, we use an 8-hour chart. Now let's take a look at what we see on this picture. Okay, so 35,600 to 36,600 is a group of what I would call key points. Bill Williams calls them fractals. Those are the little red dots on the bottom of the candles over on the left-hand side. This leads me to believe that when you trigger, when you go below those points or you touch those points, right, the trend has a strong chance of continuing. So the moving average system, right, because all the moving averages are spread out, or as they say, the alligator's mouth is open, all right, means, the trend seems pretty clear. And there's also a cluster of these fractals or important trading signals that exist between 35.5K and 36.5K roughly. This leads me to think of what happens if, say, I don't know, a day or 4 days from now, if Bitcoin starts taking out that level. So Bitcoin takes out 35.5-ish or 36-ish, right? That can lead to 34, right? This is not the worst looking chart out there. Stocks look worse, and we'll get to that, okay? So it's important for Bitcoin to stay away from, say, 36,600. Bitcoin does that, it should be stable, okay? If it doesn't, right, then there's going to be kind of a disappearing act. I would suspect that's probably a day and a half off if it happens. Now, let's take a look at regular Bitcoin. So Bitcoin from Coinbase, right, looking at, again, at a 4-hour chart. Looks to me like, Bitcoin is retesting important resistance, right? These moving averages can act as, resistance points. Bitcoin seems to have spiked up there on a kind of buy the fact, right? And again, 36,200 shows up on the Bitcoin charts, the regular Bitcoin charts, as an important level, right? The best you can do at this point in the trend is figure out where the trend is going to accelerate, okay, and where the trend is going to stop. Right this second, I don't see any evidence that the trend is going to stop unless you had a dramatic reversal higher. Now let's talk about Ethereum. Ethereum on a very short-term chart has what I call a pivot point right around 26.23. So on a short-term basis, this is, sometimes people watch these videos that day or the day after, right? So on Tuesday, if Ethereum is above 26.23, it could be okay. It could rally. There could be a 4-day consolidation. But if Ethereum can't get back above that level, right, there could be more downside or worst case, actually best case rather, just more range trading. Again, this is a very short-term look. Now let's look at Ethereum on an 8-hour chart to get kind of what I would call, the intermediate term picture. So the alligator, the moving averages, they're all spread out, right? Meaning the trend is still intact. Ethereum could sit and tread water here, but what you definitely don't want to see is acceleration below 24.72. That could start a chain reaction that could take ETH down to either 23.20 or the lows. So as long as the trend is intact, okay, there's no reason to believe that crypto can't go lower. Now, one thing when we look at equities later on, you really understand what's happening here, because think about it, right? Vladimir Putin knew what he was going to do. He knew exactly what he was going to do. And it's very interesting that he picked the Monday night of a 3-day weekend in the United States to try to get this news, to try to crack the stock market on the open the next day, right? Luckily, most of the move, at least in the very short term, in the market's mind, was done, right? But I suspect more damage later, okay? So for crypto, the biggest problem isn't necessarily the geopolitical situation. The biggest problem for crypto is what goes on in equities. Now let's look at Avalanche and take a look at key support and resistance level there. This is a DeMark chart, right? The DeMark had the classic 13 bottom in the bottom right-hand corner. So Avalanche kind of did this climactic puke and is now kind of in rebound and consolidation mode. We observe the same thing in Bitcoin and Ethereum on short-term charts. So the best case scenario for Avalanche is probably a rally to 77. It's going to have to get through resistance at 75 first, and it looks like as of now, it's kind of having trouble doing that. Okay, that is not really a good sign. I think Avalanche, in order to say, okay, this is reversed and it's going in the other direction, Avalanche probably has to take out 77, which is where it was before this kind of weekend puke started. Now let's take a look at the 8-hour chart for Avalanche. Okay, Avalanche can rally up to 75, maybe 77. But notice in that box on the right, the alligator moving average system, the mouth's still wide open. Meaning on the 8-hour chart for Avalanche, really the trend could just be starting. So realistically, unless something different happens, over the next day or so, you could be looking at a new low for the move based on this trend following system. Now, how would you know that something like that's going to unfold? Well, last night's low was 68, and that's one of these, this system has calculated 68 as being one of those trigger points. So there is a high likelihood that if Avalanche takes out 68, it can start that chain reaction we discussed earlier in Ethereum. In other words, below 68, you get to 64. 64 is another point, and then it goes to 61, right? Avalanche looks like it can make a new low, right? The question is, how do you manage risk? Are you selling on upticks, or are you praying that it takes out 77, right? Depending on what camp you're in, that's okay, but you need to know that the trend in some of these altcoins is actually just starting to open up. Now, Solana, the downtrend's been in place for a while, okay? But Solana is dangerously close to, frankly, to just making a new low. In other words, there are altcoins, Solana being kind of a case in point as to like the biggest and best that trades the worst, right? So if Solana is pretty close to its trigger point around 80, right? Solana could take down a lot of other altcoins with it. Now, this sounds really depressing, but it's not supposed to be, because what can happen is if you have this big, huge puke, now let's just say the big, huge puke takes Bitcoin to say 34K, that could be an accumulation period for a bounce, right? Not a huge bounce, right? Or actually, I should say not a bounce that lasts forever, but you could get the big trading bounce. Because remember, inflation numbers are coming out on March 10th. So everything's going to shift from war back over to inflation. Okay, let's look at oil. Oil we talked about on Friday as being very important for crypto. If oil was moving higher, right, that's a negative for risk assets and probably crypto. Now, oil did its own little sell the fact right? This is Brent crude for delivery in London. It did its own little sell the fact decline this morning. So that does look like a meaningful reversal. However, right, the Elliott wave that's counted off some of these Williams indicators, shows that a 5 wave is in place. Now, what does that mean? Well, that means an emotional blow off top could be in motion. Was it a small blow off top or is it a big one? Right now, I don't know the answer to that right this second, but I can get a clue about oil and crypto from looking at stocks. Now, this is SPY, the exchange traded ETF that follows S&P futures. Now, what do we see here? Well, we see that after a lot of really choppy action, the small down trade last week, right, just got that moving average trend following system turned over, meaning the trend, all right, has resumed lower in equities. Now, as a crypto person, you're like, well, no shit, right? Crypto's been going down all weekend, but yeah, equities just getting started, right? Just getting started, right? And some of this short-term work indicates that equities are probably going to take out, right, their late January lows, right? When I look at this, I don't really understand how stocks can hold up. If they do hold up, it's great for crypto, right? But this is some of the worst looking stuff I've seen in terms of trend following behavior. Now let's take a look at SPY on a DeMark chart, right? S&P has a key level, right? DeMark's Elliott wave system draws support and resistance automatically. It's very convenient, right? This analysis shows that around 436, you've got a key point, which is roughly where SPY is right now. But if you're not above 436, the next level below is 385. Now that sounds like the end of the world, right? But it's not, because all it would mean is S&P would just do this A, B, C correction. In other words, equities have been going up, I don't know, God knows for how long, right? So this normal A, B, C correction is totally normal. So if you were a crypto investor, you'd look at this chart and be like, wow, I either got to protect myself against against another down move, right? With the hopes that, I can get Bitcoin at 34K and possibly ETH or AVAX at a new low, right? In other words, if you've got stable coins and you may be you're looking to put them to work, then you would do so on any big down trade in equities. Now that could take a couple of days. That could take a couple of weeks. Let's take a look at long bond ETF. Okay, this is TLT, which is the long bond or the longer term bond in the United States. So rates up, TLT down, right? Rates down, TLT up. Now, we noted this last week. The bond market was kind of the canary in the coal mine for all of crypto because bonds, bottomed well in advance of the decline in crypto and well in advance of the big moves by Putin. Noticing in the bottom right, TLT is still green, despite everybody trying to either sell the fact in oil or buy the fact in crypto or equities. I think TLT has a shot of going all the way up to 145, right? That would unwind most of February's down move, which is interesting because long-term bonds like this are very sensitive to inflation. So this could be an indication of how much fear is in the markets, how much fear can be put in the markets on the equity side. Now, from a geopolitical point of view, it was interesting to note that I saw a BBC show about how the Russians were busing women and children from these newly recognized areas. They were given passports and sent to cities outside Moscow, while the men were to stay behind to potentially fight any sort of counterattack by the opposition, which is, the Ukrainians, either their police or their militia. Why is this relevant? Well, realistically, even though Russia is sending people in as peacekeepers, I think it's realistic to assume that at some point, shooting is going to start, whether that's today or in March. Okay. It seems like financial markets are telling you it's going to happen. Now, the best news for crypto investors is that could result in a final climactic puke that could give you a nice bottom for a trading opportunity. So it's not all doom and gloom. If the trend is still intact, right, you don't want to catch the falling knife now. You want to wait until the trend is really overextended so that you can accumulate. And that, friends, is the market update. Okay, let's go to the chat and see what we got going on in there. All right, one person is saying this is nothing compared to a dump if you look at 1929. Took 25 years to recover. That's correct, right? If you have a situation in equities where there's a geopolitical problem and then Putin, who is very sort of market intelligent, decides to make another big move right after the inflation number on the 10th or after the rate hike on the 16th, you can have bigger issues, right? Trying to keep it focused on crypto, you're watching that 36K level in Bitcoin, right? All right, so we have Waco, Texas in the house, right? We have Ireland, right? Any word on the Biden executive order on crypto? No, but they certainly have enough problems, I believe. So I think they're going to be, occupied for a while. Okay, we have South Africa in the house. All right, somebody is noting that the camera and audio quality have improved. I appreciate that. All right, let's go to see what requests we have, and let's run down some charts because I know people are really interested in altcoins. So let me see what else we have here. Let's see if we got any requests in the stream. Okay, we have Glimmer and Glint. Let me see if I've got those in my database. Okay, I'm bringing up my chart system now. Here it comes. Okay, so this is Glimmer. This is the 8-hour chart. All right, now the best thing I can give you is obviously the recent lows at 187. That shows up as a key level, right? As you can see with Glimmer, once these moving averages open up, because it's been in a down move, right? It can continue that way. Your best hope, right, is that Glimmer actually starts going sideways, which causes these moving averages to look the way they did over here, right? When they sort of clustered together. But right now, when these moving averages are open like this, particularly when you got something that's an object in motion to the downside, it's kind of a no duh, but you do need to be careful. Okay, let's check the other symbol. Okay, that I don't have. All right, here comes a flurry of requests. Okay, we've got everything from Litecoin. All right, let's take a look at Litecoin to see where we are. All right. So some good news in Litecoin, sort of, is in this area over here, right around, say, 104, Litecoin has already triggered all of its bearish points. So the fact that Litecoin actually managed some sort of a bounce, considering it triggered all of its bearish points over here, that could be considered a good thing. I would say in order to get a full-on reversal in Litecoin, you need to be above 114, which, seems to be a million miles away. You're probably looking at resistance at 108. Okay, let me label this. All right, now another measure of hopefully what could be some good news is that with Litecoin in this area, right, that was probably the worst of the downtrend, right? That was probably like, I don't know, maybe the most violent it's going to get. Now, that doesn't mean Litecoin can't make a new low. It can, but you would expect that after it's done making a new low, that it would snap back, because this is probably the final leg down, at least for the short term. So if you were hodling this and you're like, well, I've put up with it so far, you're probably going to have to put up with penetration or move below 100, right? Especially if this moving average system continues to stay the way it is. Because look at what happened over here, right? Once this thing opened up, Litecoin went from 135 to below 100. Okay, if that starts happening in this case, you can have lower prices. Let's see what else we're looking at here. Okay, everyone's requesting Gala. Always appreciate our regulars, and I have absolutely no problem keeping them up to speed, particularly with, as you can see, we're upgrading the type of TA that we use, okay, to take into account analysis of the trend, right? We want to be able to tell you when are trends starting and when are they stopping. That is pretty much the spice of trading. Okay, so with Gala, again, you had a triangle breakout, and this moving average system, okay, has just opened up again. Now, the good news for Gala is there's no real trigger points over here. There's no Gala doesn't get scary until it's down at 17 cents, which, that's a long way off. So with Gala, you can expect perhaps a retracement back up to 25 cents. In order for Gala to be like, okay, maybe it's going to go up or have more stability, you'd have to have Gala above 27 cents. So you're noticing, when you make a request now, I'm giving you kind of an if this, then that approach. Overall, with stocks looking the way that they do, you have to be careful in the most speculative coins, right? Because again, go back over here and look at Gala, right? These metaverse coins, when these moving averages start to open up, right? When they started to open up here, and even when they started to open up down here, right? You can get really big moves in coins like this, right? This is a trending monster. So if you saw Gala all the way down here at 17 cents, you might expect a new low. Now, what does that mean for you if you have a position? It means that you have got to see not only Bitcoin and Ethereum go up, but you got to see people go, all right, I really want Gala. I want it above 27 cents. I'm going to buy it up there because that will turn all these moving averages. But in the meantime, to just say, okay, well, Putin moved in and it's over, that might not be the best strategy. Matter of fact, I know it's not, because, they're set up for war now that they're over the Ukrainian border and we're looking at the inflation numbers and the Fed in less than 30 days, in less than 20 days, okay? So you may get 1 or 2 days. This is the important thing that I want to drive home. You got 1 or 2 days to make portfolio decisions. You got to ask yourself, can I tolerate a new low in whatever it is I'm looking at? Honestly, right? In other words, you don't get anywhere on crypto YouTube with doom and gloom, right? It's not doom and gloom. It's just the trend, right? And you have to ask yourself, if you get that down move, right, that's probably the accumulation zone. If you're like, okay, Bill, I'm upset. I blew this whole thing off. Now it's lower. What do I do? All right. Well, I would say on a rally over the next 2 days, try to get stable coins, not investment advice. So if there is a big heave to say 34K in Bitcoin, right? Because that shows up as a big GAN level. I put it on my Twitter a couple days ago. Like 34,900 is a really big level in Bitcoin, right? But, can you imagine where altcoins are going to be, especially with the way they traded over the weekend? So that's how I would be playing it. I'd be playing it to see, all right, if this thing blows up, can I take advantage of a sharp decline and get a trading bounce, right? Because, in a market like this, if you're a long-only player, that's what you're looking for. You're looking for trading bounces. All right, let's take a look at Matic on an 8-hour chart. Okay, so when you have something like this, again, you've got Matic triggering all of these different points here, right? See all these red dots and how the Matic price action is moving below them. So there's ones on the left and there's like ones happening right now inside the trend. Okay, this has a look kind of like Solana, where you would think that, it would look okay. But again, this just opened up. Now, Matic is not a monster like Gala, okay? But it really feels like it can make a new low, right? And if you're long this and can't tolerate a new low, there's no wash sale rule in crypto. I learned this at a Token Metrics tax seminar. So if you have to cut risk on a rally and then, sort of vacuum it up on a massive panic, maybe at the end of the month or in March, okay, we may have to wait. It may take a while, who knows, for that like new low to unfold. The way this looks, I'm thinking it's like sooner rather than later, like 3 or 4 days away. Okay, let's look at helium. And again, the real focus that we're going to work on in future streams, what you want to stay tuned for is, where do you want to buy some of this stuff, right? That's the key. Where do you want to buy and when do you want to buy? Well, you want to buy when it's the most extended away from these moving averages, right? Especially the red ones and the blue ones. So let's take a look at helium. Okay, so I guess the good news is helium's pretty far away from its sort of new low big trigger points. All right. Helium's definitely doing a sell the fact bounce. Okay. And believe it or not, the moving average system in helium has actually been sort of open for quite a while. So interesting price action in helium, right? Probably going to see a new low, but other coins look worse than helium, right? You want to be there for helium below 19, right? And if you get these rallies that could last a day or two, I don't think I would get fooled based on how stocks look. Now, again, this is not the worst looking crypto out there. And I know the thought of it making new lows sucks. Okay. But when the trend looks the way it does, right? When it looks like this, where you have these moving averages spread out, unless there's a big rally or the market goes sideways for an extended period of time, you have to ask yourself, can I handle a new low? Or if you have stable coins, if I get a new low, can I hoover some of these good coins up? Okay. Casper, got our friends asking for Casper. Okay, so this is the 8-hour chart of Casper. Now, unlike other coins, Casper has already sort of taken out its old low, or it's like close to it, right? So Casper, obviously, because it's kind of like one of these crash altcoins, right? When it trends, it really trends, right? But Casper can go through these periods like what it just went through, where those moving averages are all tangled up and there's really nothing to do or nothing to say about it, right, at those levels. But Casper has once again opened up this moving average system, right? It's opened it up. So when it comes to Casper, you have to ask yourself, can I tolerate the new low? Can I tolerate it? Now, that's not what anybody wants to hear, but realistically, if equities are in trouble, if S&P is in trouble, then altcoins are in trouble. I was listening to Benjamin Cohn over the weekend on Twitter, and apparently he's got, I don't know, people either in his feed or people talking to him about the possibility of an alt season, right? I don't think based on the way like the Avalanche and Solana charts look, that you could get an alt season, right? Until this whole market is completely flushed out like some sort of a purge. All right. Let's take a look at ACH. All right. So the good news in ACH is the moving averages are all tangled up, right? And ACH is in like a range. So it hasn't fallen apart. But if you look over here, right, ACH is starting to turn over. Now, even if, that you don't know the answer to that yet, but you see these red dots, right, you don't want to see ACH start rolling over. Because if ACH starts falling below, say, 0.05, I'm sorry, 0.045, hey, that's a recipe for more downside. Right? So in ACH, I would be concerned that the market is moving from range and chop and nowhere to trend, right? So if you're long it, you say, all right, if this thing is below 0.045, can I tolerate what happens next? Could I tolerate this? Now, if the answer is no, then you want to exit and you want to say, all right, I'll take the tax loss, not investment advice or tax advice, and come back either if the trend starts again on the upside or I get much lower prices for an entry. Okay, let's take a look at Phantom. Phantom kind of turned into a heartbreaker coin almost out of nowhere, right? Probably because the DeFi craze went somewhere else. Basically, it went to Avalanche, and then Avalanche fell out of bed, which again was scary. All right. The good news about Phantom is there's nothing over here that would scare you, right? But again, Phantom hasn't really opened up on the downside. Now, that could be because Phantom is okay and there's not a lot to worry about. However, if you've got Avalanche making a new low and Solana falling out of bed, then it seems to me it's tough to see how Phantom doesn't wind up, right, taking out its recent low, right? Like I would be afraid, that you would see Phantom. Let's see if I can do some fib extension work on this to get you a downside target. Because by the way, folks, that's what's next is downside targets. try one more thing. Right, one more time. One more time. All right, so based on this system, I'm going to use 177 as the key level in Phantom, right? I tried to get a downside objective off this. It didn't work. With the moving averages the way it is, like Phantom has never really opened up. So the best way to maybe look at Phantom is how Phantom looked when it went up. Like, you know, when Phantom was around $1.32 before it took off to $3, you know, you got sort of paid to get involved when it went from sideways and it turned up. If that's what's happening now in Phantom and you get a 1 or 2 day bounce, you have to ask yourself again, what can I do for you today? Right? I can suggest that if there's no rally over the next 2 days, these indicators show this downtrend is intact. You want to do anything you can to protect yourself, right? Headed into, say, you know, March, right? You may get a decent bounce over the next day or two. So it's not all doom and gloom, but if there is a big new low, can you handle that? Right? It's cryptotherapy. If anybody remembers that from way back in the day, right? All right, we have people asking for ADA. Let's take a look at ADA. Okay, the big question is Cardano washed out? Okay, interesting that you have a kind of a blue bar here in Cardano, right? Sometimes those blue bars can give you tops and bottoms, or they can come very close to tops and bottoms. So of all the charts we've looked at today, you know, Cardano doesn't seem as bad, believe it or not. Doesn't seem as bad. Even though this moving average system's, you know, mouth is open, I don't see a lot of negative trigger points. Now, all that said, in order for Cardano to really start reversing and wanting to get long, it's got to be well above $1. So here's the conclusion in Cardano. Do you have to freak out right this second? No. Do you have to see a sizable rally before Cardano turns around? Yes. All right. A lot of times, because Cardano has already been like severely beat up, at least lately, when the moving averages open up, okay, you saw this really sharp spike down. So one of the things you want to be careful of in Cardano is the failed rally. In other words, if you look closely right here, when Cardano had this failed rally and then those moving averages opened up, that's when you got the sharp drop. So if you come back over here, if there's a failed rally in this area, right, Cardano may actually be able to rush up, especially if Avalanche heads for 77. Right? You want to be really careful in these layer ones about a failed rally. Okay, let's take a look at Dusk. Okay, so Dusk on an 8-hour chart has a similar situation. All right, I guess the good news is for Dusk is that it had a lot of negative trigger points. It went down, but it didn't totally crash. All right. So how would I play Dusk? Well, Dusk is pretty far away from its moving average system. So Dusk may come back over to here, say to 32 cents. You got a rally. That's where you get a rally to. Now, if you don't get a rally in Dusk, right, it's sort of this simple. Like, look at what happened. Let's just label this for people who are watching the video later. Okay, so this is your 8-hour chart of Dusk. Okay, just getting the label on here. Now, every time Dusk made a new low here, okay, when it took out those lows, the way it would go down, it would come back, and then it would go, right? You may have the same pattern, right? If you take out 32 cents, right, that 32 cents is right here. The resistance up here is at 36 cents. I had that labeled wrong, sorry. Right? If you go below 32 cents, you come back up and fail, that means you got more downside. Now let's just take a look at a daily chart on this, because I know this has been a pretty steep decline, right? Now, just to drive the point home, do you see what happens, when you look at a higher time frame chart, when I'm trying to underscore not getting in the way of this thing, when these moving averages open up like this, like just when they start to open up, like they were in some of those other charts, they were 8-hour charts, but you just want to be really careful, right? You want to be really careful of not buying the dip too soon and of protecting yourself, in the inevitability of new lows, either after February to 2 or 3 days later or after February, right? That should be at the top of your mind. Okay, looking at one, Harmony. Okay, let's go to the 8-hour chart. All right, so here is the not so fun reality in Harmony. Harmony, triggered another sell signal around 13 and a half cents right here. Now, to be honest with you, Harmony's moving average system has been wide open for a while. There's actually an argument that it's too stretched out. But if it doesn't hold 13 and a half cents, there's going to be another leg down, right? In other words, Harmony is a good indicator of what the rest of crypto could wind up looking like because of what's going on with oil and stocks. That's the thing you got to remember, right? Are you watching Brent crude or SPY on your trading view? You have to be, right? Because this is an example of what can happen to a decent altcoin, right, when risk assets as a whole start getting hurt. Does this have anything to do with crypto? No, right? But you don't want to be getting in front necessarily of something that just triggered a negative point, all right, especially when this trend is still your friend. Now, if there was a reversal, so in Harmony, it's interesting. So if you saw something where Harmony rushed down and came screaming back, I mean, I guess it did a little bit here, right? But you see how people are still selling the uptick? I mean, if you saw this thing drop and then come back, right, above that 13 and a half cents, bulls would be invalidating the bearish signal, right? In other words, when you watch, if you watch this video later, or I'm always saying, what can I say that you can take with you going forward? Well, when you see price get way away from moving averages, right? When you see a really sharp drop, I think the next big vertical drop in crypto is a buy. But right now, the trend seems to be intact. All right, folks, that is what I'm going to do today for requests. Wow, we do have a lot in here. Let's see. Fibonacci is looking for near. That's a big coin. So let's see if I can get near protocol in here. All right, and as with all these coins, we want to be asking ourselves, where are the bearish trigger points, right? And has the moving average system really just opened up? So I know I was a big fan. I'm still a big fan of Near as a project, right? And, if Near doesn't trigger or doesn't fall below these trigger points at $8, That would be something constructive. Right? That's where you would start to say, okay, yeah, we're due for some sort of, bigger rally. But again, once near, as much as I like it, once the trend got started with these moving average systems, it kept going. So believe it or not, as good of a project as near is, you may get to buy it. You may get to buy it down here. You may get to buy it below 6. Now, I know that sounds like doom and gloom. It's not. It's just acknowledging that the trend is in motion, right? Equities and oil aren't your friend at the moment. And if you want to get long risky assets, having stable coins ready for a final purge might really help you. Okay, I did forget Ethereum Classic. Let me get that dropped in here. And I know I said we were going to wrap it up, but y'all know every time I say I'm going to wrap it up, we find 10 more altcoins to look at. And I know that, this is upsetting. Believe me, it's upsetting. I get it. I was in the 2018 bear market. I started in crypto when crypto was on the way down. Okay, so with Ethereum Classic, right, it sort of seems to me like if this was the worst of it, a lot of times what happens is when you see the worst, the worst of it, there could be a new low. So the worst of it is like the 3 wave, and the 5 wave is what ends the trend. That's the capitulation. And it looks like we're heading for some sort of capitulation here, right? The only question is, how long does it take? Does it take 2 days? Does it take 4 days? Does it take 2 weeks? Right now, with this trend opening up like this, right? Now, with Ethereum Classic, to be intellectually honest, the last time it was kind of in that neighborhood, Ethereum Classic stopped. That could be good news. But in reality, when these moving averages are open like this, you do not want to see Ethereum Classic taking out levels like, let me just get this, say at 2308. So if I was long this, I'd be watching 2308. One thing you don't want to be doing in altcoins, you don't want to be puking altcoins, right, as they approach a level where they might be a buy. That would be the worst, right? You got to ask yourself, can I tolerate a new low? Can you? Right? Can I tolerate Ethereum Classic, at say 21? Now that's not a prediction, but I mean, Ethereum Classic has got to get above 28 according to this system before you can start to say, all right, yeah, I'm willing to go long Ethereum Classic now. So there could be a range, right? Or you could turn around and say 2 days and this trend could be resuming. Okay, I did see somebody ask a couple times for Binance Coin. I saw that flash by. All right. So Binance Coin had this sort of like consolidation area where there was nothing to do, right? Then the moving averages started to open up, just like they opened up right about here. Right now, in the last instance, Binance Coin fell apart. Again, the levels in Binance Coin that you want to be paying attention to are right in this zone. Probably the bottom of the zone is like 358. So after this video is over, right, what can I give you? Like how can I help you now and how can I help you later? Right? 358 is the level in Binance Coin. If we're working off an 8-hour chart, that, if Binance Coin takes that out and people who got short after these levels got triggered, if they start to make money, remember my old saying, it's not a bull market until you can buy a dip and make money. Well, now it's almost like we're reversing it, right? If the market can go down, trigger bearish signals, and shorts don't get stopped out, right? Or shorts are able to hold the trade, then the bears are going to continue to press it, right? And then you have to manage your risk accordingly. Okay, A Positive wants to know, what is the difference between the YouTube stream and Token Metrics TV? What a great question. All right, let's talk about that for a second. Token Metrics TV takes the content that we produce on YouTube, or the content that we produce, and it puts it into a format that looks a lot like Hulu and Netflix. So if you look on YouTube and you say, okay, what was the Hidden Gem show 2 weeks ago? Okay, that might require some digging. But on Token Metrics TV, right, you have a Netflix style interface where you can, search for shows or see much cleaner menus. You may notice that on our thumbnails on YouTube, I'm not making funny faces like other YouTubers. That's because those thumbnails go on Token Metrics TV. Now, recently, as an announcement, Token Metrics TV, which by the way is free, is now available to be downloaded on an app store for televisions, tablets, and phones. It's TMTV. TM, obviously, for Token Metrics. So literally, if you wanted to sit around at night and instead of Netflix and chill, you wanted to do Token Metrics and chill, my understanding is you can now download our TV app, right, for your television or tablet. So the YouTube content is posted here, and then it's transferred and immediately posted as soon as possible over to Token Metrics TV. Also, I'm pretty sure that we have our live stream streaming live on that platform. All right, somebody's asking for Axia. By the way, folks, if you like the content and you appreciate the fact that, I can do this kind of on the fly for you and give you the important levels, because really that's what's important. It's the levels. Okay. Now in Axia, because it's just a beast, right? It's taken out 11.2, right? That was where I thought the profit taking level was. Now, just as a note, when you have something like Axia, it's pretty interesting that even during the consolidation phase, right, the moving averages didn't even fold over. It just kind of went sideways, and then they re-expanded out. They re-expanded. Now, how high can this go? Well, I certainly don't want to get in front of it, all right? I don't want to say take profits when, you have this kind of moving average action going on. But let's take a look at an 8-hour chart to see how things look. All right, so perhaps the best way to do this in Axia, which by the way was a big Token Metrics coin in our indices from a while back. Okay, another reason to get yourself a Token Metrics subscription. All right, I think you can start using like trailing stops at either 12.17 or maybe 11.5. Right. As of now, you don't see any candlesticks in Axia. If you see that like failed rally where it sort of rushes up and fails, you haven't really seen that yet. All right. Now, if you saw that, all right, that could be reason to sort of take your money, even if there's like a rush up and then one of those weird reversal candles. But I'm not seeing anything that stops this. What I would do is have a trailing stop, around 12.15, not investment advice. Wow, someone's asking for BCH. Let's take a look at BCH. Okay. So if we're looking at BCH on an 8-hour, let me see if I can use this chart to make a point as to how relatively new this sort of like, I guess you could call it the new trend really is. So today is the 22nd, right? And this moving average system really started opening up probably right there. Now, what day is that you're asking on an 8-hour chart? That's Feb 19. That's Feb 19. I mean, when you have the beginning of these trends, like, of course, that's an extreme example right there, right? From the big avalanche. Okay. But you've even got it up here, right? Where it started going. And when it went down, yeah, it was a slow slump here. But you still had to, you still had to deal with downside risk, right? So in a new trend, and as with all these other coins, you've got all of these, like, you got right here. So, I mean, if Bitcoin Cash starts taking out either 275 or 268, that could propel it down to the next momentum point, which is at 260, right? So you got a relief rally. The market's like, okay, let's buy the fact. Okay, buy the fact. Buy the fact may last 1 or 2 days. But if it went down again, could you tolerate this? Could you tolerate it? Or do you have stable coins available? Say, all right, if it goes below 250 and there's this huge, everybody, basically you get everybody stopped out. All the people who got long, who chased it up in here, when these moving averages will tangled up, like, these are the people that are now starting to get out. All right, someone's asking about Chainlink. And I'm not going to lie, I thought this was going up, and I got absolutely hosed. Like, I had this for the trading battle that we did, that live stream, and I thought DeFi was going to be okay. And I took a look at my trades, and I actually got out that day going, oh my God, this whole thing is going to turn over. Right? I actually was long for the trading battle, sold it in a day, and managed to survive. But like with Chainlink, okay, Chainlink broke a lot of its points. So the good news is Chainlink broke its points, but hasn't broken down. I am seriously cheering for Chainlink. Chainlink is big enough and important enough so that if it doesn't fall apart, it could help hold up the market. Okay. In other words, Chainlink basically holds up DeFi. Okay. Now, with all that said, if this relief rally is just kind of a harmless bounce, because remember, if you look closely at the candles, right, you had one of these bounces, not too long ago, right there. Like, there's a green candle, right? And here's a green candle. Right. And with these moving averages looking the way it is, you got to ask yourself if you can tolerate Chainlink below 13. Right. In other words, this market could be headed for an accumulation period where you would say, all right, yeah, this is where I want to buy crypto for, say, a V bottom. Right. This doesn't feel like it might, but again, they're just moving the armies in place and the inflation number is coming. So it may not make sense to sell today, but you need to evaluate this to see if there's a failed rally or if this thing just sort of does nothing, keeping the downtrend intact, right? You want to be really careful of the failed rally. Okay, let's actually check the markets. Sometimes I talk on the stream long enough for the markets to actually start moving. So, Bitcoin is still up. ETH is unchanged. Okay. But here's equities accelerating, right? Here's like an acceleration candlestick that's taken out one of these negative points right? In other words, bears are in charge, and this momentum, again, is just starting. Okay, wrong again says, what's going on in Aave? I was surprised by all the capitulation. Okay, so let's take a look at Aave on an 8-hour chart so I can help my friend here. So I think at Aave, you got capitulation because it actually did make a new low. Okay, and again, if this is about to be a repeat of what happened before, one way or the other, you know, Aave honestly hasn't really started to go vertical. It's just sort of getting to the point where those moving averages are opening up. And I can't be the only person who can see this, especially with what's happening in equities. In other words, if you got caught off by what happened in your coin, it's because crypto moves first. Crypto is before equities. Crypto is like the warning bell, right? So if you're like, oh, Jesus, you know, what the, I thought everybody would like Bitcoin. Maybe there's sanctions and, you know, things where people are going to need to move money around. That should be good for crypto, right? Well, eventually, but if risk assets get really hurt, you got to remember, altcoins are some of the most speculative things out there. All right. Got an immutable X fan looking for IMX. All right. So I guess if there's any such thing as good news in IMX, okay, this is your 8-hour chart. It's that IMX has been in a sharp downtrend for a while. So these moving averages have actually been open, going all the way back up here after that failed rally at $2.70. So for Immutable X to turn around, you would need it to pop back above $1.95. Right now, these are a little bit experimental, but these blue bars, you know, they can occur within 3 to 5 bars of a low. So that might mean that over the next, say, 2 or 3 days, Immutable X may have its final puke. What you want to watch for in Immutable X, you know, you want to watch for candlestick setups like this one, right? I don't know if you can see it. Let me see if I can expand it out, like right here. Right? So you're saying, all right, here I am watching Bill, right? He's showing you the moving averages. He's talking about equities. How do I know if my coin has bottomed? Well, as you can see here, right, this is a good example of what you want to look for. Whoops. You want to see your coin very far away from, say, the red and the blue lines, right? And then you see a reversal, right, somewhere in this area. So here's a good like bullish engulfing pattern that occurred right here. Here's like a hammer candlestick. The key is you want to see that avalanche first away from the moving averages. Right now, I don't know, this still feels kind of close relative to what you saw earlier. But this Immutable X downtrend is mature. You know, you just want to be careful of a new low below $1.50. In other words, between now and tomorrow, it'd be like, okay, did $1.50 hold? Okay, it did or it didn't. Right? The title of the video is like trend analysis. I want to be able to analyze the trends, and just so you know, so you stay tuned for future videos, I'm actually want to start coming up with price targets. Right? In other words, I used Fibonacci extension analysis a lot when the market's going up. The Token Metrics R&D department is hard at work. All right. Please explain the blue candle. Okay. The blue candle is something called a squat bar. It comes from Bill Williams' analysis, right? A squat bar is a warning. It uses volume and price to come up with sort of an indication of whether you're close to a bottom. So a blue bar can occur within 3 to 5 bars of a low or a stopping point on a trend. Now, it's currently experimental for crypto, but as you know, I'm going absolutely, frankly, you know what's to the wall to get you some better explanations, some better TA in crypto. Okay, Muhammad is asking for Woo. Okay, so this has been hammered, right, a couple times. So I can't say it's just started. It's sort of just started here, right? And now it's made kind of a big new low. Now, here's what you have to worry about this. Here's the key level. Looks like 47 cents, right? It took out 47 cents. And what has it been doing? Right? It's still going lower. And it's making more of these red points, which means, if you get sellers on rallies post, I don't know, can you call it invasion? Right? In other words, I think the geopolitical situation is set up so that the fear of additional shooting obviously just went way up. Right? It's set up so that like civilian militias or like citizens versus police can start to happen, particularly as Russian troops move in. Now, what's that got to do with Woo? Well, nothing, right? Nothing, except Woo is a speculative asset. And if it's below 47 cents with this type of trend in place, right? If Woo makes a new low, in other words, think about it. If you zoom in on this, are bears in control? Like bears sold it here and they got a lot of gratification. Bears sold it here, right? You had to wait a day, but then you got a lot of gratification, right? Now, bears, the first time bears had to take any heat was there, right? Because they sold it, right? Actually, no, they didn't take any heat. They sold it. It fell down. It tried to rally above it this morning and failed, right? So these red points or fractals are telling you, hey, now, is this fun to hear? No, it's not. But you want to focus on getting these coins at levels where they're really, really, really stretched out. Now, Woo's pretty close, right? But the bears are still in control. You can still people selling upticks and making money. Okay, I'm late, but a deal is a deal. What's happening with BNB? All right, well, I did BNB, but I will do it for you again. Please hit the like button. Okay, now, BNB luckily hit a bearish trigger point right around here, right? And it's still rising. So the bears didn't get control here. I would say BNB in a good scenario can get itself back up to 380. Okay, that's in a good scenario. So we're maybe entering a 1 to 2 day period where you do get these bounces. You do get bounces, right? And that's why I'm encouraging you to say, all right, will we get a failed rally? Right? The rally has to fail for you to say, all right, now everything is going to turn around and make a new low. Okay, let's look at DONE. Not there. Tornado Cash. Okay, fascinating chart. Right now, Tornado Cash, after this huge rally, is in neutral mode. So Tornado Cash obviously benefiting from the geopolitical situation and the privacy narrative. Now, the good news is on a daily chart, the tornado cash moving averages are moving higher. The way I would trade this is if I was long and I wanted to stay that way, I would want to see bulls be able to defend 33.31. Right? If bulls can defend 33.31, then this thing could turn around and keep going. But if you take out 33.31, all right, then this moving average system is you're going to go into like tangle mode, right? So it's a bull market if it dips to 33.31 and holds and comes back. If not, if you've been long this and you're a bag holder and it goes from 20 to 50 in the middle of an overall down market, you really have to consider taking your profits. Okay. Someone asking for SNX. All right. So the pain of a failed Head and Shoulders. Okay. This is the daily chart. Let's take a look at the 8-hour chart, see what's happening there. All right. I know this is stating the obvious because it's the lows, but there's 3 trigger points in synthetics between 343 and 364. How ridiculous is it that we're talking about synthetics at that level? Pretty ridiculous. But like I said earlier, this is an example of what happens when these trends get going. Now, this synthetics trend is pretty mature, right? So if you got this big new low, okay, if you got this big new low, I might be inclined to think that synthetics was maybe, trying to bottom. In other words, if you look at the daily chart, man, I mean, this thing has tried to, really press down below 3.5 twice. So, hopefully I don't wind up eating my words, but if there was ever such thing as a chart that was actually, that looked to me like, okay, yeah, there's some hope here if the market keeps itself together, right? Because synthetics is so far away from its moving average system. The question is, does this green candlestick hold up today? Does that hold up? Right? Because, synthetics has been destroyed. Honestly, why, I don't know. But it's an example of what can happen. Like you say, what's wrong with synthetics? What's wrong with Aave? What's wrong with Chainlink? Well, frequently when you start asking yourself that question, there may be one final puke where everybody goes, I don't know what's wrong, but I got to get out. That's where you want to be grabbing it. And we'll find out in the next 3 days whether or not, there is a new low, right? And where you can actually pick it up, right, for a bounce, or whether or not, that whole new low process stretches out into March. Because remember, the inflation number and the Fed, the inflation number is the 10th, right? And the Fed is the 16th. Wrong again says, I was hoping yesterday was it. Honestly, me too. Me too. But it's going to require the bulls to come in and take charge for that to happen, right? Like, we were looking at Avalanche. Let's just go back and look at that quick. Avalanche, I wanted to see a move to say either 77 or 75, right? And what, Avalanche managed what? 74 before it just sort of sat there. Okay, let's take a look at Sheeb. All right. So SHIB has been making this like stair-step pattern where every time it takes out any of these bearish fractals, it just kind of keeps going. I think the thing that bugs me the most in SHIB is that, SHIB is currently unwinding this vertical rally, right? And, you have this happening again. This is what happened in SHIB last time. In other words, after the Fed last time, I did the kind of smart ass trade and it was sort of licensed to speculate. I maybe pushed that 1 or 2 days too far, but you can't F around with this if it's just turning around like this, right? In other words, the accumulation zone for crypto or the buy point may be appreciably below where it's at right now, right? 34,900 comes out of Gann work as probably the best point to do it in Bitcoin. And again, equities may just be getting started. Okay, Cosmos. Okay, so let's look at a daily chart of Cosmos. Okay, this is the perpetual. Okay, here comes Cosmos on Coinbase. All right, so as you know, at Token Metrics, we're big Cosmos fans. But look what's happening. We're almost in this mode where can you sell a rally and make money? So yesterday was the big puke. It triggered all these bearish points. Okay. The moving average system has actually been sort of open, right, for the last 3 days. It's been open going back to, say, the middle of last week. So, Cosmos has got to turn around and get back above 25.48. That's where you want to see Cosmos rally through if there's a positive 2 days, right? But if this thing just goes dead cat bounce with equities going lower, you have to ask yourself, all right, is there going to be a better entry point for Cosmos, especially if those bearish signals near 20, if they get triggered, right? If Cosmos goes down there and triggers all those sell signals, is there a better place to buy Cosmos? Okay, Boss Nova is asking why 8-hour charts. All right, well, I follow a couple really smart people on crypto Twitter, and 8-hour charts are the ones that, not everyone's looking at. Of course, I got them on YouTube now, so that might change. But I've been looking at 8-hour charts and 89-minute charts, right? The 8-hour charts are really interesting, I think, because this moving average system intrigues me at that time frame. Right. It's also intriguing it's good for my videos. All right. Because an 8-hour chart, gives you 3 bars between now and the next video. All right. AVAX is killing me here, but I'm holding. Okay. That's Wilfredo. All right, folks. That's going to be it for today. Smart people to follow on crypto Twitter. Definitely Crypto Dog and Don Alt for sure. Maybe I'll put a crypto Twitter list together for a future video. Oh, OG wants VeChain. I can't leave my VeChain guy hanging. So I know I said that was it. I always say that, and then I do one more. So this will be like the second encore. All right, so let's take a look at what's going on in VeChain. Okay, so it's hard for me to get crazy negative, but the moving average system is turning over, right? It was tangled, and now it's untangling itself. Now, there's the bearish signal at the recent lows around, 0.043. So if you see VeChain have an awful close below 0.043, then I guess your next level would be this Gann point at 0.032. I know this is nauseating to hear, but it looks like bears have just started to take control of the market again. I mean, I know VeChain has been in this horrendous downtrend, right? But, every time VeChain gets going, right, every time these moving averages opened up, like up here, right, once they all got kind of spread out, that's when you would get these downside dislocations, like right there. So I want to like VeChain, and I know you do. I know you do too. And the question is, will sellers or buyers win the battle at the lows? Right? If the sellers don't win the battle, if the buyers don't win the battle at the lows, right, then sellers can wreck it, because the trend has effectively just restarted. It has to unrestart, if that makes any sense. All right, folks, that's going to be it for today. That's about 90 minutes. I will be here Monday through Friday, and we're even looking at a weekend stream. I definitely appreciate you being with us. If you like the content, please hit the like button. That helps us get the message out. I will continue to keep track of the trend, and I will continue to look for reversal signals. So, Bobby, Jan, OG, thanks for being here. Thanks for watching our show. Don't forget to subscribe to Token Metrics, and don't forget to check out our sponsor, tokenmetrics.com. That's it for today, friends. I'll see you tomorrow.